Today we have a question from a viewer about different types of guards.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried saying that I wasn't.
So our viewer Q, or user NU8IN3EY8C, sir, is that in fact your real name? Anyway, his question is really good, but it's pretty long, so I'm going to abbreviate it for time. He asks me the difference between a more classical boxing guard, the Muay Thai high guard often seen in videos on rapid assault tactics, and Blauer Tactical Systems Flinch Spear response. He asked me, is any one of them superior to the other, and when would you use each one, and in which scenario? So first I'll explain the three different types of guards, when and who would use them, and then I'm going to show you how to integrate them into some scenarios. I'm going to be addressing this from a reality-based violence scenario, not from sport martial arts, although there is certainly some overlap. Now, the classical guard used in boxing, MMA, or Bruce Lee's Jun Fan kickboxing is for a trained martial artist who finds themselves in a street fight that starts at distance. You're ready. You know you're in a fight. This is not a sucker punch scenario. You're using distance and footwork and timing to set up your strikes and your counter strikes. The advantage of this guard is that you can generate speed and power from your punches, and you can pretty much throw any punch or kick from this guard. And while of course you do have access to your parries, your blocks, and your head movement, this guard is actually the worst defensively because it demands that you actively go out and defend each strike. That means you see the punch and you have to defend it. This works really well when you are well trained, have space so that you have improved reaction time, and 3, you have a very clear head. Now for the Muay Thai high guard, just take your guard up higher and project it out further while keeping your elbows tucked in. Hey, where'd I go? This can be useful for when you're trying to set up an elbow destruction. It is also very useful for someone who is not a well-trained martial artist or doesn't have the footwork, the timing, and the agility needed to pull off more classical kickboxing type entries. And instead, you're going to have to block your opponent's punch and then counter in order to set up the termination of the fight. I usually start off all my new clients with this guard because it is far easier to block punches with way less skill than a classical boxing guard. The advantages of this guard is that it has better defenses automatically because it automatically blocks most of the angles of the punches that are aimed at your head. It also puts you in a great position, as we discussed earlier, to do an elbow destruction, which is really going to ruin someone's afternoon. Now the cons are you can't generate as much power in this position unless you pull your hands back, which will telegraph your strikes. Although, if you're doing an eye jab, you don't need power since you're just hitting an eye. Now for the Flinch Spear, to me, this is very similar to the Muay Thai high guard from earlier. The difference is that when you use a Flinch Spear, it is a literal flinch response to a surprise attack. Whereas the Muay Thai high guard is already deployed proactively. So for instance, let's say you have someone who's trying to get close to you. You're getting weird vibes, but they have not stated violent intentions. You might find yourself in prayer hands or an interview stance or hey, what's going on kind of a stance. Then if that person suddenly launches a sucker punch at you, or suddenly stabs with a knife thrust or whatever, your hands shoot out to intercept that attack. The Flinch Spear takes advantage of your natural hardwired flinch response, which is to push danger away and to pull away from danger. The Flinch Spear and the Muay Thai high guard, by the way, block the highest number of angles to your head. They are not perfect, but they're the best that you can do, especially in an oh crap ambush moment. So the advantage is that it is the fastest possible response that you can make since it takes advantage of hardwired neurological reflexes as opposed to skill-based learned responses. The disadvantages, I mean, there really aren't unless you're using it as a proactive guard like the Muay Thai high guard, and then it has the same pros and cons. But this really is meant to be a response to an ambush attack such as a sucker punch, and it is the single best response in a scenario like that. Okay, scenario number one, you're walking to your car, you're doing your best due diligence to kind of stay in color code yellow, notice anything around you, but yet you still find yourself in this scenario. A man comes out from behind a van and suddenly he's in fairly close proximity with you. Wisely, you put your hands up, hey, what's going on? Stop right there. And he fires off a sucker punch really quick at your head. Boom! You use your flinch spear to stop the punch or punches. Then you counter with whatever seems appropriate, and then you use rapid assault tactics, going into a straight blast and tie clinch as needed to terminate the fight. Okay, scenario two, same exact situation. You find yourself walking to your car, man jumps out, put your hands up, hey, what's going on? He fires off a sucker punch, and you defend with that same flinch spear. Now, realistically, it might take your brain a couple of moments to realize that you're in a fight and to switch into combat mode. So you might need to weather 2 or 3 or maybe 4 punches as you move away. Okay, so now you've weathered those punches, you've made some space, and you realize you're in a fight. So you get into your martial arts stance and you do what you've been trained to do. Okay, same scenario as previous, but you aren't so well trained in the old kickboxing skills. Maybe you've only been training for a couple of months, or you're a bit older and not as agile as you once were. So, man pops out, hands up, he fires off his sucker punch, you flinch spear, you move backwards, your brain realizes you're in a fight. But instead of getting into your awesome martial artist stance, you get into that Muay Thai high guard stance. The man comes in with another flurry of punches. You put your elbows up in the way. Boom, maybe his fist runs into one of your elbows, or maybe you counter with a strike to his eyes, which stuns him, and now you straight blast down the center line, tie clinch him up, terminate the fight. Okay, same scenario, but this time it's higher threat. It's a lethal threat. Maybe you're a smaller female being attacked by a larger male. Maybe you're an elderly gentleman being attacked by a really large younger guy. Maybe there's multiple attackers, okay? That first sucker punch comes in from the closest guy. You flinch spear it, you smash him in the throat, you shove him back to make space, you move back, you draw your concealed carry handgun, you get on target, and you watch the attackers scatter. Okay, finally, let's say you are a well-trained martial artist. Good job. Same scenario, man jumps out, hands up, you defend his sucker punch, you get into your fighting stance, right? And you're like, okay, I'm ready to rock, man. I've trained this, and you come in, boom, 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 whatever your attack is, but it doesn't work. And he suddenly counters with a flurry of punches. It's too fast to accurately react. So you put your flinch spear or your Muay Thai high guard up as you move away so you can survive the shitstorm. Now you've created space, you're back to your martial arts stance, and you're like, okay, I saw what happened this time. This time I'm gonna do something else. As always, when you make your first strike, utilize rapid assault tactics. That means as soon as you land your first strike, straight blast, tie clinch, terminate the fight from a tie clinch. So let me summarize. The flinch spear is for those oh crap moments where you are either ambushed or you get overwhelmed by a rapid flurry of punches. In a classical boxing guard, it would likely fail as you wouldn't be able to respond quick enough with those learned skills, such as your blocks, your parries, your head work. A good example might be to imagine Manny Pacquiao firing off one of his 8-punch combos at your head. Don't try to parry and block against that. Make space, get away from that. That's too much to deal with. After you survive your opponent's shitstorm by using that Muay Thai high guard and make space, you can switch back to your boxing guard so you can get back in and do the stuff you've been trained to do. If you're not a well-trained martial artist, you'd probably opt for that Muay Thai high guard so you can have a superior defense. Let the opponent come to you, block their punches, counter them with maybe a strike to the eyes or put your elbows in the way so their fist hits your elbows. Then, of course, straight blast, Thai clinch, in the fight. Realize that in a fight you will use probably all three of those guards depending on how the fight begins and what happens during the fight. I modify my guard constantly during training based on which of these distances and scenarios I find myself in. And this is important so you don't find yourself using the wrong guard at the wrong time. If you have any follow-up questions or scenarios that you would like me to discuss, leave them below in the comments and I'll make a future video on them. If you're looking for a reality-based martial arts gym in the Aurora, Colorado area where you can learn rapid assault tactics and Jeet Kune Do concepts, go check out my website, Progressive Combat Systems. Like, subscribe, come train. See you next time.